Hello, old friend. Yes, it's about time we talk about this long-forgotten superhero game on the Sega Genesis, the simply titled X-Men, released in 1993, the year after the debut of the animated series. So the timing was just right for an X-Men game to grab people's attention. This was actually one of the first games I owned on my Genesis as a kid. Getting this and Sonic 2 for Christmas in 1993, and I was shocked by just how brutal it was. Even having friends over and playing multiplayer led to hours of frustration. This was a hard game, and getting past the first level was seemingly impossible. But I always appreciated the detailed graphics, fantastic music and sound effects, and the refined gameplay. Later, I would obtain a code book where I learned the level select code and realized the game was even harder than I originally thought, and it was pretty creepy too. But we'll get into that in just a bit. So we start off this game and damn, that's a fine intro. It's curious why they didn't get the rights to the animated series theme, but we have a theme that, while completely different, is still very fitting and reminiscent of it with its industrial synth melody that really works so well on the Genesis' sound chip. We're then greeted by a cutscene that explains the story and how Magneto is using a satellite to transmit a computer virus into the X-Men's Danger Room, which is their computer-based training simulator, which now has corrupted it, turning it lethal. So really, everything you fight and do in this game isn't real in the sense that it's a simulation. So all the villains you face up until the final level are all simulations that now have been corrupted so they can now really hurt you. This is a truly interesting concept, and I really like that the game has an interesting story instead of it just being, oh, let's just go through the levels and beat up some bad guys like in the arcade game. Not that there's anything inherently wrong with that concept, but being that this is a comic book and animated series that heavily focused on telling stories, it's nice that the video game counterpart didn't lose sight of that concept. We're then off to start our adventure in the Danger Room, where we see the X-Men we can choose from, and it's only 4. Wolverine, Cyclops, Gambit, and Nightcrawler. I have to say, these picks are good ones. Some may be disappointed that none of the women are available to play, but they are available as assist characters. You have Storm and Rogue ready to call upon to deal out damage to enemies, and you also have Archangel and Iceman, who can use his powers to forge an ice bridge so you can cross gaps and skip some tricky sections. So right off the bat, the music of the Danger Room sounds ominous and feels that way too. I love it, and we'll feel even more of that later on. Even the sound effect when you select your character has so much attention-grabbing zest to it. This game feels alive and ready to impress. The Savage Land is the first stage we'll come to, and man, oh man, does this game have atmosphere. The developers didn't blast your ears off with rockin' tunes right away, but instead gave us a nice, fitting tribal piece, and the whistling of tomahawks can be heard as they sail through the air. The squeaking of pulley systems and the shriek of the pterodactyls is quite unsettling. The game's sound design is just next level. This is truly one of my favorite sounding Genesis games. We'll encounter Juggernaut soon enough, and if you just evade him, he'll soon disappear mysteriously enough. And oh my god, I have never in all my time with this game successfully made it across this waterfall section without falling. It's fucking crazy. If you fall, you'll take damage, and Jean Grey will help you out. I would use Iceman to help me out here, but then I discovered that you can actually ride on the back of Sauron here, who's here to help you, which is quite odd because he's usually their enemy. So I just naturally assumed he was there to hurt you, so why would I try touching him when every person you encounter during gameplay dishes out damage by merely touching them? The boss here is Zaladane, and I remember not knowing who this was, especially because the Savage Land episodes did not occur in the animated series at this time. So I was like, who is this? Once again, you gotta love those scintillating sound effects with the whizzing of her energy blast. That sounds fucking awesome. She's not the toughest boss, but still tricky enough for a first boss. If you saved your assist characters, you can easily take care of her. You'll head back to the danger room, and now it's filled with training orbs, which really makes the danger room feel even more unsettling, especially with their sound effects. And this is good because by hitting the orbs, you will regain some of your health because guess what? This game doesn't have the fucking courtesy to fill your health, or any of the other X-Men you have in reserve. Wolverine can regain some health, but just a smidge by not moving for a while. Oh, and hey, guess what else? Did you happen to lose any of the X-Men in the Savage Land? Well, that's it for them. Even though you'll get them back after completing the second to last level, that's a long ways away. Yes, this game doesn't pull any punches, and they're not playing around. This is very reminiscent of the first ever Ninja Turtles game on the NES, but even that game let you recover the turtles you lost. Plus, adding insult to injury, you can only change X-Men a certain amount of times depending on what level you're in. So if you didn't know this and you change X-Men too many times, you better make sure you change into the one that has sufficient health. Otherwise, kiss him goodbye. Yeah, it adds to the challenge, but trust me, this game would still be plenty challenging even without it. Because besides the pathetic amount of health Wolverine recovers, no one recovers health unless you collect one of the scarce health power-ups. Oh, okay, so that's it, right? There's no way things could possibly get any tougher, right? I mean, limited character changes, limited health, non-recoverable characters for most of the game? I mean, surely that's the extent of the difficulty on top of the levels themselves, right? Well, there's the matter of your mutant powers being limited. Even Wolverine having his fucking claws out uses up energy. Not using them to attack, mind you, just having them out. And if you insist on using them while you don't have enough mutant power left, you'll spaz the fuck out and it'll actually hurt him and eventually die in hilarious fashion. Okay, I'm not sure why they decided to put this in, but it's certainly pretty funny to me. The claws are a part of him. How the hell can they lead to his own demise? The Shiar Empire is next, and this place ramps up the difficulty by quite a bit. It introduces a labyrinth-style level design with lock gates and key cards to find. This music makes me feel like marching around with my chest out. It's very uniquely bombastic in tone. The guards have guns, and you'll see just how easy it is to take damage here. And a mere blast from their guns can greatly damage you, and even if you crouch and attack, you can easily get whacked with the gun itself by standing too close. But how close is too close? I really recommend Cyclops here, because the way these enemies attack is very unfair, and an optic blast provides the convenience of keeping your distance, and it only takes one blast. And look at this fucker, just waiting for me to pass through the door. I haven't even gone through it, and he's already blasting away at me. God damn! How about a bit of breathing room? Holy cannoli! You'll also be able to skip sections of the level with Nightcrawler if you've had enough of this shit, which is pretty awesome. You'll soon come to this absolute troll of a section where you climb on top of this transport, and the force of movement will push you backwards, and even when you know this is going to happen, it still is hard to maintain any sort of footing here. And a fall here results in massive damage, way more than in the first level. Then you'll soon need to learn the pattern of these asteroids. Good God, this game can be downright unforgiving. I must have reloaded my save state here at least a dozen times. You're now at the final stretch, and you'll be greeted by an absolute banger piece of music. You'll then come upon Deathbird, who isn't that tough. She just jumps around like a goofball throwing punches. If you have assist characters left, they'll make things even easier. It's then time to take a trip to Excalibur's lighthouse, and you'll start off outside the lighthouse on the jetty and encounter Sabretooth along the way. Now, you can actually use Iceman to skip over him, but I battled it out with him for this playthrough. I recommend Cyclops here for dispatching him at a distance or using an assist character. Upon entering the lighthouse, you'll find many blocked paths and floating ghostly energy masses that upon touching them turn into your fellow X-Men. This always creeped me out as a kid, and the music sounds perfectly mysterious. You'll need to find switches and find your way into the basement, where if you collect this visor, it will reveal the ghosts fully. It's a beginner's trap because it's so close to the switch you have to hit. You'll come upon Juggernaut here, and unlike in the Savage Land, he doesn't just disappear. You'll actually have to beat him to progress. But you know what I say? Let's Nightcrawler this bitch. I saw the whole level after dying to Juggernaut. And I'll save my X-Men and health and move on to the main boss, Apocalypse. Yeah, that's right. You actually can just skip past the whole lighthouse and just go right to the elevator you're breaking your ass to find a path to. Apocalypse is by far one of the hardest bosses in the game, and he has many periods where he is invincible. So you have a really small opportunity to cause damage, and you'll be running and jumping from him like a damn coward. Ahab's future world comes next, and Nightcrawler is your best friend here. This is a post-apocalyptic stage, and I love the aesthetic, but man, is it hard. And you'll be greeted by some sentinels in the beginning of the stage. There's multiple floors to the destroyed buildings to explore, filled with automated guns and tons of energy gates blocking your path. And you can either zip through them as Nightcrawler, or find switches to destroy to open certain ones. However, some gates are impassable without Nightcrawler. If you take the top level, you'll be met with sets of flying drones that can be tricky to evade, and there's encapsulated mutants waiting to break out here and attack you. And you have to get close for them to come out, and I swear sometimes I can be as careful as can be with these guys, and they still manage to hurt me. I then came to this part over here and had a massive brain fart, not realizing that I could have built a bridge as Iceman to clear this sizable chasm. But I thought at first I needed to destroy these sentinels, and what is up with that weird ass sound? What is that exactly? It's pretty fucking weird and creepy. But you can actually just use Nightcrawler's flying kick to dive onto the distant platform waiting for you on the other side of the big gap. Well, I feel stupid. Once over here, you'll be overwhelmed by dozens of encapsulated mutants and some tricky platforming with the elevators. You'll soon find yourself toe-to-toe with Ahab, and once you learn his pattern, he's not too hard. But at first, he does seem very tough, because he moves fast and is sneaky. Mojo's crunch follows, and oh man, here we go with this one. This is the infamous level that this game is known for, and before we get to that little gem of a moment, it's important to note that this stage already has plenty to deal with, from tricky lava geysers to exploding monitors. And did I mention this is a timed level? But you actually have a decent amount of time to do everything. So this game did give us that little bit of leeway, but the worst factor by far is the fact that you could only switch your character a grand total of one fucking time. Yeah, so that's not showing much leeway. This character switching limit is so stupid. I really think this is the dumbest feature in the game, because if you're going to be stingy with the health and not refill it after every level, then this feature shouldn't exist alongside it. That's absolute bullshit. Well, anyway, you'll soon meet up with Mojo, and Wolverine is very useful here. Just remember to duck to avoid this trollish tail attack when you get behind him. Once Mojo is down, the level doesn't end, and there's switch puzzles to solve. And then the cherry on top, this fucking part, resetting the computer. As a kid, this was so unsettling. I didn't know what the hell to do. I destroyed the floating computer, but I couldn't progress any further, and the timer was counting down as this music suggesting impending doom played, plus the ominous face of Professor Xavier on the monitors didn't help my nerves. I just flailed about until I died from the timer running out, and I just turned the game off and used the level select code to explore the next level. But little did I know that I was actually supposed to hit the reset button on my Genesis. But you have to make sure to not hit it too hard to actually reset the game, but light enough to trigger the next part in the game, as computer coding fills the screen, effectively resetting the Danger Room's computer and freeing you from the simulation, and any X-Men you lost will be recovered. It's then time to set off for Asteroid M and face Magneto, and of course this stage is hard as hell with plenty to die from, and the beginner's trap of the guards capturing you in an energy field, and any button inputs will result in you getting caught in an endless zap loop until you die. Just wait it out and don't press anything, and even though you'll still lose health, you'll survive. This is pretty fucking cheap to say the least. And what the hell is this? During my playthrough, I get to this point and I'm like, what do I do here? This chasm obviously isn't crossable, so I wasn't going to make the same mistake that I did in Ahab's future world and called upon Iceman. But then what do I do now? Well, I just found a rogue assist portrait, so I guess she's supposed to hit something where that electricity is coming from. Nope. Well then, Nightcrawler it is. I could only imagine if I had exceeded my character change limit of 3 in this stage and couldn't choose them because I'd be stuck. But just how are you supposed to traditionally pass this part? Well, you have to fall down from up here and hit a switch that's on the wall as you fall, which makes a platform appear to take you across the gap. Who in their right mind is looking at the wall as they're falling? This didn't catch my eye at all. You know what happened when I fell down from here? I fell into the pit. And I only knew about this after watching a walkthrough, and there's even another walkthrough on YouTube where the player uses Nightcrawler to skip this shit. I know this is the last level, but come on, that's cheap design, especially since at this point in the game, falling takes massive damage. So you'll finally meet up with Magneto, and this guy hits hard, but once you learn his patterns, he's honestly not that bad. He can be a little tricky to avoid, but honestly, I found Apocalypse to be a bigger pain in the ass. I suggest using Cyclops and optic blasting his ass when he takes his force field down. So once you take Magneto out, the day is saved, and the satellite is destroyed as Magneto and Xavier have a discussion about their morals. Honestly, do these guys ever talk about anything else? I'm right. No, you're wrong. No, you're wrong, Charles. Give it a rest, fellas. Anyway, we get this lovely family portrait, and it's pretty interesting that characters who don't even appear in-game are featured here. But what happened to Nightcrawler? They went and did the boy dirty here because he's nowhere to be found after being one of the most useful characters in the game. So there you have it, folks. X-Men is a hard game that definitely put some hair on my chest as a kid. It's a good game with good gameplay, nice graphics, and although many are split on this, I have to say the sound effects are memorable and awesome, and the music is classic. It's just that the game is pretty unfair in some parts, especially when it comes to how stingily everything is so micromanaged to artificially inflate the difficulty from not refilling your health after these tough levels to limiting the number of times you can switch your character. Why couldn't the game just have tough levels and refill my health and bring my dead characters back to life after each level, and let me change my character as much as I want, especially when they're low on health? Although I used save states, completing this game is still an accomplishment because you still have to survive, so I still feel validated in finally beating this Titan of toughness. If you're easily frustrated, I wouldn't recommend this one at all. But if you're an X-Men fan or enjoy a challenge with some solid gameplay, then I'd say have at it. This was a pure nostalgia trip for me, and I'm glad I returned to exact my revenge on this game. So many people talk about the Konami arcade X-Men game, but hardly does this game enter the conversation among the best X-Men games. And the arcade game is an undeniable classic and rightfully deserves the high praise it does receive. But although the Genesis X-Men game may have several flaws and quite a bit of frustrating moments, it surely is a classic to me. So guys, let me know what you think in the comments down below. What are some of your favorite memories of X-Men on the Genesis? Do you like this game? Do you dislike this game? Do you find it to be too hard? I'd love to know in the comments down below. Let's discuss it. And please subscribe if you haven't already. Click the bells to get all the notifications when I post all my new videos. I want to thank all my subscribers for your continued support, and any donations that you could give on Patreon would be greatly appreciated. And hit the like button if you enjoyed the video, and hit the dislike button if you fucking hated it. And guys, thank you all for watching, and I'll see you next time.